welcome back to I Am African podcast. I am your host, Liz, as you know by now. I am Congolese, and of course, this that hasn't told you yet, I am from Democratic Republic of Congo. So for this episode, we're going to have three incredible guests, and we're going to start with the introduction. I'll let our guests introduce each other. You can just say your name and what country you're from. That's enough. And there's one person here you've seen their face already multiple times, but we're going to allow them to introduce themselves again. So I'll start with Esther, and then Roddy, and then Serigne. So Esther, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Esther. From Congo, Bukavu, and yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you. Roddy?
Hello, I'm back again to I'm African with Liz. My name is Roddy. I'm originally from Congo and Kinshasa. That's where I grew up, And yeah, I'm here. I'm happy to be back, and we're gonna give you guys another round of what it is to be African.
Yes. Since we're saying we're from in Congo, I'm from Bujumai on the south, close to Lubumbashi. Just wanted to put that in there.
I know that's right. I know that's
But
right.
Serigne, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Serigne. Nice to meet you guys. This is my first time here. Originally came from Senegal, and now I'm in Houston since 2 years. But before Houston, I was in France for more than 10 years. So my English is not really good. So just be patient with me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
the good thing is everyone here understands French. Some of us don't even speak it, but it's okay. We'll understand what you are. The topic for today is growing up African, traditions, rules, and expectations. Of course, cultural practices and society expectations within African families is very interesting. So we're going to talk about how we balance between maintaining traditions and then adapting to modern society changes, and of course, how African children navigate family rules, including the expectations around academics, marriage, their careers, and stuff like that. So, my question for today for my guests is, what are the biggest rules that you had following, like growing up as African? Some of the biggest rules that you had to follow, and how did you navigate them? Like, what was your experience following those rules? If you did follow them, of course. So we're gonna start. I'll start with Roddy. It seems like you're ready. You and Esther, you like.
Yeah, we can go in the same order as the way we introduce ourselves. Come on, Esther, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay.
Okay, well, for me, I would say when it comes to the rules, first off, let me say that I'm not the firstborn. I'm a middle child of 9 kids. So I kind of, I had it a little easy compared to like the firstborns and things like that. When it comes to rules, I know for a fact that we were never allowed to have sleepovers or to go to sleepovers. And I think now that I'm older, I appreciate that just because there were so many things going on that our parents maybe they were not comfortable telling us. But now that I'm older, I appreciate that rule. I'm glad that I never went to any sleepovers because when you talk to people and you hear their stories, I'm like, whoa. My parents actually shielded me from a lot. So I'm grateful for that. And then the other rule, which for me, I find this one to be funny, would be not eating at people's house. They didn't, I think you guys completely understand what I'm saying. It's just like when it comes to poison or, they just wanted to make sure that you're safe. So they said no sleepovers, no eating at people's house. What other rule did I have? I think I was okay when it comes to rules. Yeah. I didn't like follow all the rules, but my parents were not very strict. Because keep in mind I was a middle child. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And so you were a favorite in a way.
Not
And
really. Not necessarily.
no.
It's more so of like they didn't pay too much attention to me, so I got away with whatever I wanted to get away with. Yeah.
Roddy, a middle child?
Yes, I'm a middle child too. I have the same experience. To me, they didn't pay attention. They didn't pay too much attention, but they gave me the flexibility to take ownership and to take leadership on my own roles. I think that helped me a lot. So I was ready. My mom depended on me a lot. The family too, decision making, what to do. So it was a lot on me, but I think it made me who I am. Answer your question when it comes to rules. The first rules, not disrespect your elders. That one off the bat. So disrespect what I mean, like disrespect good morning, you have to say good morning every day. To like anybody else, even if they were born like 2 months before you, you just gotta be like, hey man, look, it is what it is. Good morning, and that's it. Second rules, just what Esther said. Don't eat to strangers' house. No sleepovers, and don't trust anybody that you don't know. And coming home on time. That was like a big thing. That was like a really big thing for us growing up because we grew up in an environment where it was very dangerous outside
Hmm.
after 7 o'clock. So after 7 o'clock, you better be home, right? And I think for me, and make good grades was one of them. It was like a rule. It's like, hey, you got to make good grades. Like that was one of the top rules of my mom. My dad did not have a lot of rules. As long as you respect his wife, he's gonna respect you. That's all.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you both for sharing that. I do have some things I'm going to say back, but I will let Serigne go and share because Serigne is from Senegal and grew up
Yeah.
in
Yeah, I
France.
think. Mm. Oh, you want me to talk in French?
No, no. I
Oh,
would
okay,
have
okay, okay.
appreciated that if our
Okay,
audience would
okay.
have just been
Oh, no,
French.
all right. Yeah, I think we have more or less the same rules in Africa. So in my case, I came from Muslim country. At 95% we are Muslim in Senegal. So there is some rules in the Muslim religion that we have to respect in our tradition. So it's like a mix between the tradition and the religion. So, like you guys say, you can sleep in people's house, you can have sex before marriage, or and you can have kid before marriage, and you have to respect that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that point. You say like our rules and experiences, traditions are very similar. And what's funny is every time I have this conversation with my friends and they're all from different countries, I basically say I belong to a United Nation because my friends groups, all of them are from different countries. And so when we sit down and we share our experiences, it always seems like we go through the same things, but under different
Hmm.
parenting
Yeah.
and different
Yeah.
Yeah,
countries.
we do.
It's very
Exactly.
incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to touch base on what Serene just said. And when he talks about like no sex before marriage or anything like that, I think we all had that rule. But now that I look back, the funny part is when you ask them why, they would never give you a straight answer. They would just tell you you will die or just some crazy answer, but they never had an explanation. There's more to just pregnancy. You can catch something, and it's like I don't know. I think it's a deep topic and I don't want to go into it,
Yeah.
but it's just like they never tell you the whys. It's just like
Well, to touch up on that, I think in my family, because I grew up with a lot of sisters. I mean, I would say, well, sexual education in African family sucks. Like it doesn't happen. Like it does not happen at all. You gotta have like really good auntie that you can rely on, like really good friends that you can rely on, you know. But I mean, sexual education just between you, your dad, and your mom, that is not going to happen, right? Unless they see like an infection, like something like alarming, right? But for my family, they just say sex before marriage is against the culture. We don't do that. You just have to hold on till you get married. And for my mom, she was like, I remember when she was having to talk with my sister, she was like, yeah, it's the same. I had to hold on until I got married. That's how you make your family proud and they gave her it's precious and you can't just give it to everybody. That's sweet talk, man. Hey, for me, I just understood my assignment. As a man, they don't put that pressure on men at all. I think they put it more on women. Like I grew up with sisters, I understand the pressure. The pressure was on them. When it came to me, they did not care at all.
Don't you think it's ironic that like they'll parent women differently than men, right? That they'll have this
Mm.
expectation telling women don't go and have sex, but the men there's nothing being taught to them, right? And then the men can go and have sex, but who do they expect the men to have sex with? Each other or the women?
Well, they expect men to have sex with women, right? But then again, the way they structure that environment is don't bring a woman pregnant here out of wedlock, right? That's what they stress, right? Even when you bring your girlfriend home, they don't expect you to bring multiple girlfriends, right? They expect you to bring that one girlfriend and then kind of like, for me,
okay,
at least for me, for my experience growing up, right? My experience growing up, like, hey, you can bring someone home, but we need to know what they're all
okay,
about. Because my mom was very strict. Like my mom, I grew up with a lot of ladies. If I bring one, two, three, hey man, they start calling your name, putting you in a bad category. So for family's sake and respect, hey man, look, you talk to one person, that's your girl. Hey, the standard was just don't go up there and spread your seed and have a bunch of babies mama everywhere. Like they didn't like that at all. That would mess up your reputation. And also in my culture, our family, the more you have baby outside of marriage as a man, guess what? Your inheritance, whatever you're supposed to earn, is going down little by little. It's like by the time if you have like 3 kids, by the time they'll give everything to the one that respect the culture and that made the daddy proud or the mom proud. That's how they got us. I mean, for men, that's how they got us. Like in our culture, that's how it was. If you have like 3 baby mamas, you divorce here, just say goodbye to everything. Your younger brothers are probably clapping for you because everything you're supposed to get is going straight in the pocket.
That's a very interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
Serene, do you have something?
Yeah, I think it's the my talk for Senegal. In Senegal, it's kind of you can't have baby without marriage. It's just something that we don't allow. So, or it can happen, but just don't have baby. You can have sex secretly, but don't have baby. Because once you have baby, you're gonna be the shame of the family, and it's a really critical situation, so it's the culture is very strong. I don't know how to explain it in English, but the culture in West Africa, I think it's West Africa in general, so they care about this type of things. So yeah, maybe there is more moderation in Congo, Cameroon, Gabon, but in Senegal, West Africa in general is something really critical.
Thank you for sharing that. So I did write down a few
Yes.
points because all of you brought some great points. But I'm going to go back with the attention comments that because you both made children, and when you both said that like, oh, they like parents didn't pay attention to you, that could also be a negative thing and a positive thing, right? Because you can do whatever you do, you can behave the way you behave, like the oldest and the youngest get the attention. And that also puts you in a position where you could make bad decisions and they wouldn't notice that you made the bad decision until something bad happens. Then they will know that something like you did something that caused a bad situation or something that will embarrass the family name. And so, growing up as a middle child and not getting the attention, do you feel like it contributed to your success to where you are right now? Or do you feel like there were things that you got away with that you thought maybe they should have paid a little bit more attention?
Absolutely. I would say for me, the negative part of it is it sucks.
Mhm.
To be honest, it sucks because as a child, you do want to get your parents' attention. And then you find that if you're not getting their attention when you're not doing anything wrong, then it's like maybe I should do something bad so they can give me a little bit of attention. Attention is attention, regardless of whether it's negative or positive. Yeah, for me, that would be the thing. I wish they did pay a little bit more attention to me, but they didn't. And it's okay because it also taught me how to be independent. So I think I turned out okay. I don't blame them. I think they did the best that they could, based on what they knew,
Yeah.
but it's okay.
Yeah. And I think you turned out well. I'm not just
Thank
saying
you.
that because you're friends.
Yeah, you did turn out pretty good,
Thank you.
Esther. Yeah, you did turn out pretty good.
Roddy, do you have a comment
Yeah,
on that?
man, she just hit on the nails, man. Like for me, it's the
Yeah.
same, right? But I understand that growing up, I had to look after my older sister and my younger brother at the same time, and me and my younger brother were 7 years apart. But what I learned from that was my mother relied on me more, so I had to build a relationship with her when it comes to like doing things, getting stuff done. I was always like that guy to call, and my sister they rely on me a lot too. So I mean, it is a good thing because it builds you up, right? So when you make decision outside, even when you see your friend being reckless, you're like, man, I got people that rely on me. So if I do this, man, what's gonna help my mom? Like, so it builds you up that way, right? Comparing to people that I've seen my brother get more attention, my younger brother, my sister, they get attention. But when it comes to reliability, like they can be a little bit reckless. I'm the one who's like, man, why are you overthinking, Roddy? I'm like, no, I'm making calculated decision because I don't want you guys to pay for this, or I don't want you guys. At the end of the day, when they looking for someone who has a saving account that looks pretty good, yeah, I'm the one.
Don't say
So
that. Don't say that.
I
We're
don't.
recording this. You don't want people coming for you to rob.
Rodney, you have my cash app.
So So when it comes to like responsibility, I think it was great. Certain things now, I wish my mother can, my father can be like, hey, you know what? We love you when you're young,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they're saying it now because I'm older. They see like, okay, turned out pretty good. So we did a great job. They give each other high five. I'm like 90%. I kind of did it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so then we'll move on to the next topic. All right. So the next topic I wanted to touch on is something that you all mentioned when it comes to like setting rules and expectations, right? They set the expectations, but you can discreetly do it and get away with it, right? Like for men, they can have sex in Senegal, they can have sex before marriage, but just don't say anything. Over in Congo, both of you explained how like well, for men, they can do certain things, right? But
Mhm.
something else aside from like something that affects their health would happen in the case like you use your inheritance because you have a bad name out there, like you're bringing the bad name to your family. So do you feel like the African parenting was teaching like it was enabling children to be discreet, like to have secrets and to lie about certain things? Because when they say don't do it because you're going to die, and you're like, what? That's a lie. Then you go do it and then you don't say anything. You don't say that you did it, but you did it. And now you're not being truthful about it. Do you feel like African parenting, or let's say specific parenting in your country, that style of parenting is allowing children to have secrets and lie to their parents?
I would have to say yes to that question. Yeah, I would have to say yes to that question. And that's because if you tell me something, right, you tell me don't do this. I'm a child. You tell me not to do something. I ask you why. You give me a ridiculous answer. Okay. I end up doing it. Nothing happens to me. I'm going to keep it as a secret. And it's not just me as a child. Also, I think African parents in general. I'm sorry. And I'm not trying to come for anybody's parent, but parents they lie so much to where it's unnecessary. According to me, I can even put my own parents on the line right now. There are things that they have lied to me about, things that don't make sense. Things that if they had told me the truth, I honestly feel like it could have saved me from certain things. For me right now as a parent, I'm going to tell my child the truth.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. But I feel like I agree with you to a certain extent, right? There are some lies that needed to be told for our own protection. But I do agree with you, especially as women. Like
I
there's a lot of
see
things
what you're
that
saying, but as
yeah.
an adult, I don't feel like that anymore.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah, well,
Quiet.
I think I think it depends on what kind of parents you have because I think there's secrecy in Africa just because they're really trying to protect the elders and protect reputation of others, right? And then
But what are you protecting?
there's a lot of things
If
that
you're
they
not
don't tell.
protecting your kids,
But the kids, when it comes to kids, for me, I didn't experience like lies, right? I mean, my mom was very religious, so she raised us always tell the truth. If someone hurts you, you come forward, right? There's always like room for forgiveness and there's room for discipline, right? Same thing with my dad. He's always allowing us to come and tell him whatever we wanted because we're pretty sheltered. So the experience of, and when it comes to like other things that's going on outside, like family and your cousin did it, hey, your uncle was doing this. Man, like if it's something shameful, don't wanna my parents were pretty good at shielding us on that. Like, hey, if it's negative, I don't want my kids to hear it. I don't want to talk about it with them. Hey, so they can respect the uncle that they did something crazy, but you still respect them because your parents really protected them by not messing up their name in front of you, not calling them names, not saying all kind of stuff. That's how I grew up, right? I can have some really bad people in my family. They'll just tell me be careful, but they will not call them names. When I see them, I'll always respect them, but I would just be like, hey, it is what it is. I gotta keep on my lane and respect them and let them handle the business. That's all.
I feel like, you know what's funny, Roddy, because of the way you grew up, and also I'm going to point this out. Roddy spent a lot of his life here in the US, right? There's a way that you look at your experience when you were younger and how you were raised, and you are using the, like, I'm going to call this, I'm not insulting you, but I have to use this word, the American mentality to look at your experience. You and Esther are saying the same thing, except you are saying that they were shielding you when they were lying, because absence of a truth is a lie. So they lied to you about the things that your uncle was doing or your family members were doing in a way to protect you and them, right? But that was also a lie. They were not like you were looking at it that now as in they were shielding you because they didn't want you to know those things because of how it could have affected you. But I have another question on respect, but I'll bring this topic up, like this point up, whenever we talk about the respect thing, because a lot of us had to, like, we were shielded from a lot of things that were happening around us in the name of protection. But I'll let Serigne go on this point and answer this question because I would like to know what Serine's experience was like. Because you also spent time in Senegal and France. So I don't know if you and
That's
Roddy will.
Yeah, yeah. So I think there is too many taboo in Africa. So parents tend to not create a real bond or a real connection with their child. And I can give you an example of my father. So we rarely had a real conversation with him. It was more like order upon order, 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 order. Do this, do that, do that. Don't talk. Just keep quiet, do what I say, you know? And so naturally we open up to other people who aren't necessarily nice people, or I don't know, we're gonna give you the bad advice, the mauvais conseil, tu vois. So it's more like a patriarchal society that doesn't give young people and women a voice. They can't talk about their problem. So I think it's a big problem in Africa. We have to say it, but yeah, at the end of the day, when you grow, when you travel, when you move, and so when I was in Africa, I was thinking that it's something normal. So just when I go to France, start studying, going to the university and all that things. So I start and meeting some people, I start to learn. I say, okay, now I understand how people work, how they should work. Maybe we have to keep the good side of European culture and maybe mix it with the African culture. And I think it's gonna create a little balance. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that a lot because you touched on a very important stuff. Yeah, it's about creating the balance.
Mhm.
That's what we need, and the transparency between parents and children, it is not there. It is not there.
It doesn't
Yeah, so
exist.
Mhm.
it doesn't exist. And then it's very difficult even to get them, right? Even at an older age, just to be open and to say, hey, I love you or I care about you, and it gets so hard for them, right? And it takes a lot of prayer for them to be like, hey, let me open up to my son. Let me open up to my daughter. Like, it takes a
Mhm.
lot of work. I don't know why. Maybe it's the way they were raised. Maybe they have some past trauma too. Like, hey man, no one ever told me,
And they
you
do.
know.
And they do.
So, and then when you get here to America, you're like, hey man, everybody say I love you. They give you a hug. You're like, oh man, life is great over here.
You know, it's funny. My siblings, like, I'm like the fourth child, right? And all of us, so basically, my family, we have 10 children. We had 10 children, and five were born in Congo, and five were born in Zambia in a refugee camp. And so the ones that were born in Zambia, they have a completely different relationship with my parents compared to the ones that were born in Congo, right? We were the ones that they were strict with. We couldn't say, like, you cannot talk. If they talk to you, if they're yelling at you, you just have to say yes. And then you move on. And then you have this other half that if they talk to them, they'll talk back or they'll say, oh, they'll try to explain themselves to try to make a point so that they can stop being yelled at or like being spoken to, right? And what's funny is that half they get to say, "Oh, good night, mama. Good night, papa. I love you." Kiss on the it makes me like I first when I first saw it, I was uncomfortable. I was like, "Oh, like it was new. It was not something that I was used to." Like kiss on the cheek. What? It was not up until like I was 20 years old when I saw my parents kiss for the first time. Like my I was 20 years old, and that was because we were in the U.S.
And they have 10 kids.
and that kiss.
That's crazy.
That experience, it taught me that like whenever they leave Congo or they leave the African countries and they go to the Western world, they start to like see things a little bit different. But then also the older they get, the more lenient they are, the more understanding and patient they are. I just hated that it happened after we are grown. So we don't get to experience that soft side.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, the next point, respect. All of you talked about like how you have to respect your elders. But do you feel like some elders deserve the respect? Because I heard this, I don't know who said it. I'm not a philosopher, so I'm not going to know exactly, but it says respect is earned, right? But we all grew up with some elders that were just very outright disrespectful to people that were younger than them because they were older. Do you feel like those people deserved respect? Or should we have been given the right to choose and say this person doesn't deserve respect?
I think for the sake of respect, I'm gonna let my elders go ahead.
That is so. That's a good one, Esther. That is a good one.
I didn't see that
Okay.
coming. I'm sorry.
I think respect is something that is reciprocal. Unfortunately, many people in Africa learn that at a very older age, or they don't even learn that at all until they die, which is a shame. You can be a dictator however you want in your home. You can do whatever you want to your kids, but don't do that to somebody else's child. Like you don't own them.
Mhm.
I experienced that a lot. Like the way teacher used to beat us, it's like, yo, I am not your kid. Like, don't do that to me, right? Understand you're doing your job, but just send it. If you send a bad report to my parents, I'm sure they'll discipline me. But I don't like the fact that parents allow strangers to beat us up in school. Like, don't do that, right? And then I think respect, to answer your question, respect is reciprocal. If you respect me, I'm gonna respect you back. But if you don't respect me, hey, keep your distance, and that's it.
Thank you, Elder.
Yeah, I have 21 brothers and sisters, so yes, a lot. So when we were kids, we were fighting and all that things. So the younger has always wrong. He's wrong. You have to say, you have to present your his excuse. You have to apologize to your big brother or big sister. You don't have the choice. Even you wasn't wrong. You have to say, I'm sorry. So, and I grow with that. Even today, I have this feeling that I'm always wrong. You know what I mean? Even we get in an argue because I grow with that and I was educated with that. Even your sister or your brother is wrong, you have to say, okay, I'm sorry. You're my big brother or you're my sister. You don't have the choice. And I grow with that. So yeah, and that's crazy.
That was deep.
That is
Yeah.
very, very deep trauma. And Serene, I just
Mm.
want to go ahead and say I am so sorry that you had to deal with
Mhm.
that. Because to be honest, I don't, and I hope that you, and I'm not saying that you need therapy. Well, we all need therapy,
Mhm.
to be honest.
All of us.
I hope you end up, realizing that you don't always have to apologize. If you are not wrong, you are not wrong.
I know, but I think it's more about the culture. It's more about culture. Even the person in front of you know that he's wrong. He's not gonna say it loud.
Mhm.
So you, the younger, you have to go to the person and say, okay, we have an argue. You don't agree. Or whatever. I'm sorry about that. But both know that who's wrong or who's not wrong. Yeah,
It's the
it is what
expectations.
it is. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. But okay, so we're going to shift focus a little bit.
I didn't answer mine.
Okay, go ahead. I'm
Mhm.
so sorry.
I was gonna say for me, I don't think well, me and my siblings, we grew up fighting, whatever it is, it's normal. I don't think, I mean, of course, I knew that I had to respect my elders, but it wasn't like I have to, especially when it comes to my siblings. We were never forced to apologize to each other. Even when we had our fights, we always had deep love for one another. So I don't think it was that extreme. But I will say that I'm learning that it's okay for even me as a mother. I have learned, even it's hard for me to tell my child, hey, I'm sorry, I was wrong, but I've learned that it's okay for me to tell him that because if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But yeah, respect for me, of course, I always knew I had to respect my elders and things like that, but it was never like one of those things that had to get drilled inside of me. So at least I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that, like, regardless of your experiences, as a mother, you want to be different. Like, you want to parent different. You want your children to have a different experience. And if you hadn't gone through what you went through, or like if they didn't raise you or you didn't experience all of this, you wouldn't have had a baseline on how you want to parent or how you want to, like, live your life and how you deal with your children. So even though it was horrible experiences, it helped us be better people or want to be better people so that when we live life going forward, it's not going to be how like we were treated. because a lot of African parents, they had like their parents the way they are because they were also like raised that way, or they dealt with a lot of trauma from their own childhood, and they carried that and they didn't know how to separate that. And I'm glad that our generation is getting that level of education to be like, I don't want to be like that.
Yeah, yeah, and then shout out to also like just the internet in general and social media. I mean, it gives us the ability to say, you know what, our parents did this, that was good, right? Our culture is good in this area, but in this area, like we really lack things, right? We really struggle in this area. Let's find out why, right? And when it comes to apologies, I mean, it's very hard to get your mom and dad to
Yeah.
apologize, unless they're getting older and then they recognize it, like, man, I hurt these feelings and stuff like that. But when you're young, man, you're not getting nothing out of them.
They'll
I
tell you
think, I
food
think,
is ready. That's how they apologize.
yeah, the food's on the table. If it's not what you like, they don't care. You're gonna have to eat it. But it really helps a lot just to see someone like Esther got married and now he's like, raising her son differently than the way she was raised, just by bringing the two, a lot of positive and then, trying to weigh which one works for her, right? And then also it depends on, I think some of the stuff that our parents raise us with, we can use some of it because of kids, the children that you have on a personality, right? Because sometimes you run into people, you can run into cousins that have like a weird personality, then you know how to act on that because your parents raised you a certain way. Like, I think what I benefit from the whole entire African experience being in our culture is it put me in an environment where like, I'm well rounded now. Especially coming in the US, it gave me like a base, like that base that you get in Africa, you don't get it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because when you get here, you don't go buck wild. Like you think, right? If you're spoiled in Africa when you get here, I mean, you don't think. But if you're raised like the way you were raised, like when you get here in this country, like you think and you see how people are doing bad things, and you're like, man, that's not how I was raised. I'm sorry, right? I think that's what I benefit from the whole respect, culture, our home. It makes me a well guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had to clap. I had to clap. But anyways, we're gonna shift focus a little bit. Expectations on education, marriage, and your career. A lot of Africans have this set expectation that you have to be engineer, you have to be like lawyer, you have to be doctor, all of this. It's like when they live their life, they try to live through you. And they set these expectations. What are some of the expectations that you had to deal with when it came to your career, marriage, and like your school? When you were in school, the things that you should study, all of that. What are some of the expectations that you had? And do you feel like it's something that they need to just lay off and let you be? Because look at the way our like life is in the Western world, right? France, US, and how people are when they're parented, that way. Compare those
Yeah.
two things and yeah. What are your thoughts?
Okay, that's a really good question, by the way. Thank you. For me, when it comes to expectations, where should I start with school? I'll start with school. I started school late compared to my siblings simply because I had to take care of my younger siblings when my mom was going to work and whatever. And this gets me emotional because if I started school late, the whole time when I went to school in Africa, it's very hard for me to remember what exactly I was learning. I'm not gonna lie to you because I felt like I didn't have the base that I needed as a child. And not only that, you have these school expectations for me, but you don't give me the resources that I need. You don't give me the support that I need in order for me to succeed, to that specific level of education that you need me or you want me to be at. And for a very long time, I used to beat myself up about it. But then I've made peace with myself when it comes to that. I made peace with it and I said, you know what, Esther? If going back to school is meant for you, you will go back and you will get that degree if you need to, whatever it is. But I understand. It's like I made peace with myself when it comes to education. When it comes to marriage, they have these expectations to where it's like you need to be married at a certain age, you need to have kids at a certain age. But then we forget that life doesn't work like that. It doesn't. You can't just marry the first person. Well, you can, but you can't just marry the first person that comes and says, "Hey, I want to marry you." even if you don't love them, simply because, oh, this is a man that came and said he wants to marry me. Now I have to marry him because, oh my God, I'm 25, I'm getting old. No, you don't. Live your life the way that you need to, and live it fully. If that means you're going to get married at 30 or at 31 or 35, that's okay. It's not late. 40 is not, I mean, I'm not a scientist or anything like that, but you can still have kids at any age. You just need to make sure that it aligns with whatever plans that you have for yourself.
Yeah.
Now, am I mad about our parents having these expectations for us? I don't think so, because to a certain point, it motivates us. But that's what I would say. As long as, yeah, I'm gonna end. Somebody else can go on, because I can go on about this if,
We can do another
yeah.
episode. Okay,
Yeah.
ready?
So for me, when it comes to education, education was a priority just because it's hard to say this and it's painful because in Africa, even though we're poor, but we consider education as it's very important. It's the baseline, right? Learning how to read, learning how to write. It doesn't matter if you live in a village. You gotta walk to school, and we are motivated to learn. That's what we do, right? And I think education is important for everybody. And there's no time of like, oh, when I shouldn't go back to school. No, you can go back to school anytime. But I think African, they do a great job. We don't have the best, we don't have nice facilities, but we work with what we got. And my primary school, I didn't go to kindergarten. Personally, I didn't go to kindergarten. I skipped kindergarten just because my parents
It's
didn't have
money.
the money to send me to kindergarten when I was at that age, right? I was dumped straight in first grade, and I was little and I couldn't understand math. I struggled a little bit, right? But it helped me a lot. I didn't go home where my mom was a teacher too, so she drilled me a lot when I went home. It wasn't like a nice drilling either. It was a very rough one. Just because she wanted me to be up to speed with everybody else. And also, she's forgetting that I'm still very young and I skipped kindergarten. So when I talk to her about these things, she's like, "Yeah, I made a mistake. I'm sorry, but you turned out pretty good." But when it comes to degree, to answer your question to degrees in Africa, I mean, it's very annoying because the way they see, engineering doctors or lawyers, right, change your class, right? Because in Africa, there's a lot of people that do bad things. So a lawyer is important, right? And then there's when people are sick, you go see a doctor, right? And then, they don't tell you to be a teacher, they really don't. But teachers are also important. When you want to build a house, you want to do things, they want to look at engineers. So in a social class in Africa, when your dad is an engineer, you have more respect.
Mm.
If your dad is a doctor, you got more respect. If your mother is a lawyer or your dad is a lawyer, that's super nice. But if your dad is a teacher, I mean, come on, man, no one cares. But you're forgetting that, people, the teacher actually teach you to be whoever you want to be,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, and also what I hate is like they don't consider art as an important degree. Art is very important. So if you say, oh, I'm doing music, what are you going to do with music? They think music is pointless, but they do listen to music, which is so weird. They listen to music a lot, but they tell you music is not important. That
Okay,
is
you're
not
gonna be
important when
homeless.
you, yeah. How come music is not important when you go to every party, they play music. You go to every event, there's music. But I'm trying to study music, and they don't want you to sing. They don't want you to write music. They don't want you to be a poet. Art is dead. I think right now they start seeing like people can make money with art. Now they trying
Yeah.
to get, but the way I grew up, art was not one of the major that you can say openly. Hey, I'm studying art. Right? Even when you're studying like to be a teacher, they just look at you like, man, you are useless.
Mm-hmm.
And you can work as a news anchor. They don't care about that. So when it comes to degrees and majors in Africa, I think we still have a long way to go and to work on. I mean, these are the 2 points. I mean, I think I covered all right. Is
Yeah, yeah,
degree
yeah, yeah.
and yeah, education. Yeah, I think these are the two. They
Okay.
need to work on that.
Okay, so
So I'm gonna give you my case. So after I graduated from high school, my parents had already decided on my career plan, studying law. I don't have the choice. Everybody study law in my family. So there is a certain pressure that they exert on us, especially in my family. So my dream had always been to work in art world. When I graduate, I say, oh, I want to be a videographer. And my mom say, no way, you're not gonna do that. You're gonna study law. And I go to France. I study law. I was graduate. I had my master and everything, starting a professional career, but I was not satisfied. I was not satisfied as a person because it was not really what I want to do. So that's why I'm here. And I decided to change and I decided to move from France to United States and do what I really like to do, videography. Even I do my first job on the side, but in remote. But now I'm happier. I'm happier in my life. I'm happier in my career. And it's very important for parents to think about that, to help their children to choose their way and not trying to discourage them or to force them to do things that I don't like, and it's very important. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And actually, I don't know if you've seen me post pictures. He's the one that took my pictures, and he's really good at videography. I'm obsessed with his videos, so I'm always watching them.
Thank you.
But I'm glad that you were able to find a way to do something that you're more passionate about. And I wish that we are all bold. Well, actually, we all were bold. We made the decisions to do the things that we love to do, regardless of what they had prepared for us, right? You made a decision and say, hey, right now, I don't feel I'm ready for something that like this. So you made a decision to put that to the side and do something that would help you feel ready. But I'm glad we all are in the position where we can say, okay, regardless of how we were raised, we're going to make these decisions and we're going to stick by them. But this concludes our episode for today. We might have a follow up to this because our guest had pretty good things to say. And I feel like this is not the end, so we're going to continue in this episode later on. Thank you so much to my guest. It was incredible having you here. You all look amazing, by the way. Thank you so much. And we will definitely catch up another